So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to CIBC Presents Entrepreneurship 101. I have one announcement to make, and that is to invite folks to the Business of Aging conference that is going to be held here December the 1st and 2nd. It's an Ontario Innovation Summit, well, those of you my age know this. We have Buzz Aldrin as a keynote speaker. The older folks will know him as an Apollo 11 astronaut. The younger ones will know him as the model for, what's his name in Toy Story. Actually, he has an interest in aging and is, I gather, an excellent speaker on that topic. So we invite you there, and I have even better news. We have a limited number of free registrations available to students in E101. It is a $395 registration fee. If anyone is interested, please send me an email, and that's tredpath@marsdd.com. And in the subject line, just put aging at E101, and I'll know what you mean. And I will forward it to the conference organizers for them to deal with, okay? So you'll get a reminder about this in the email blast. Okay, so on to tonight's lecture. Tonight's lecture is a lived-it lecture, and it comes from the other side of the house, our social innovation group. And so to introduce tonight's speaker will be Cheryl May. Cheryl is not a chemist, but that's okay. She, in fact, has a great deal of experience working with social innovation and mentoring social entrepreneurs. And I'm not going to do her justice with the extensive resume, but probably the most interesting thing recently is it's 211 Ontario. And that's a concept that was started here in Toronto and is broadening. It's like 411. But it's 211 for a fairly extensive group of social service providers. And it's, if you call 211, you can get a live person who can help direct you to any number of services that will meet a social purpose need. So with that said, Cheryl, over to you.
Great. Well, I'm really pleased to be able to introduce Steve Croth, who's your speaker tonight. If you read your notes, I'll just what's on your information. I'll just read to you in case you didn't read your information. Steve is known by many as a creative thinker with ideas that are out of the box and challenge the status quo. His broad career experience has enabled him to develop skills in marketing, strategy, cross-enterprise leadership, and product management. Steve spent his entire career in the technology sector. He's worked for large multinationals, IBM, Microsoft, and as the co-founder of a wireless software development firm. It will bring a lot of insight into business. He understands business to consumer and business to business marketing. He says in his resume, in his little blurb, that his free time is spent between personal interests that include travel, reading, spending time with his wife and 2 young children. But what you should also know is that in the last year, Steve has built a home, finished his MBA, and started a business. And his goal and his partner's goal with that business is to raise $1 billion for charitable causes. So no small goal there. The Better the World group have developed an online fundraising platform that's truly remarkable. It helps people raise money for the things they believe in and care about. And it also captures the targeted advertising dollars that corporations have available. I'm sure Steve will tell you a lot more about that. A little bit about the Mars Venture Group. Better the World is one of our star clients. These guys have been kicking around for about 18 months, but have made some really huge and significant achievements in that time. Our venture group practice is made up of information communications technology, life sciences, clean tech, and social innovation. Better the World and Steve really represent a crossover client who both capture the social innovation aspects of the work that we're doing here and really hardcore ICT. So we're very pleased to work on them jointly as a group. And we most recently have worked with them to develop their investor pitch. They're working very hard presenting and looking for partners in that area. But we're also really, really proud that this group became, in March of 2009, became Canada's first B Corporation. B Corporations are designated by Advisory Council of B Lab in Philadelphia, and they represent 175 corporations, 30 industries in a $1 billion marketplace, and Better the World is the first Canadian B Corp, so we're really, really proud of them. I'm proud to be able to help them with that. So without taking any more time, I'm sure you'll really enjoy hearing about Steve's journey to becoming an entrepreneur, and welcome him, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for taking time out of your schedules to come in and see me present tonight. As Cheryl and Tony said, my name is Steve Croth, and I'm a founding partner of Better the World. Tonight, hopefully, I'm going to provide you with some entertainment and also some information. I would say that I would change the name of the series from Lived It to Living It, because I don't really have the capacity right now to look back. I'm in the thick of things. I'm going through the journey of developing a successful social enterprise. I don't think there's any better way to start off and tell my story than showing you a video which kind of encapsulates the vision and mission of our organization. So with that. So tonight, I'm going to give you a lessons learned guide from the perspective of a social entrepreneur. As I said, I'm a founding partner of Better the World. We're an anomaly because we're a for-profit social enterprise. We're based in Toronto. We have 10 full-time employees. And hopefully, I can give you some context of what it takes to develop a successful enterprise, social enterprise tonight, and then take you through some information that relates to the industry as a whole and what we've learned over the course of the last 18 months. And then finally, I hope to pass along 10 lessons learned, things that I wish other entrepreneurs would have told me when I started and that are taken from my journey thus far. We hope to end this session with some Q&A, so hopefully you'll have some for me, and that will hopefully make it more valuable to you and a bit more interactive. So we started the company in May 2008. It was a team of Ivy MBAs that did a research project. As Cheryl said, we wanted to make money and do good simultaneously, and we didn't believe those things were mutually exclusive. We are proud to be Canada's first certified B Corporation, which firmly embeds our social mission and how we govern and run our company. We have a live technology platform, which gives anyone with a web browser the capacity to raise money for charity, and you can see that at bettertheworld.com. And the goal of the company is really to drive innovation into cause organizations, whether they're online communities, charities, not-for-profits, or associations. Our business model is based on licensing our social fundraising platform to cause communities and organizations, and then monetize the users of our software and tools. And through that monetization, we actually give back 80 to 90% of the revenue to support the very social causes that those people care about. Our byproduct of putting our software into these communities and having people adopt the tools is hopefully the world's largest social citizen network. And if you think about the power of consumers and specialty channels, having millions of people that care about the environment is going to be extremely attractive to organizations like Toyota, who want to market their Prius to those types of individuals, or Seventh Generation, who have green cleaning products. Every business starts with trying to solve a problem. And for us, the fundamental problem that we identified and want to tackle is that there's over 100 million people online that are part of these cause communities, but less than 1% of them are able to give money. We believe that fundraising in the last few years has not evolved the way that it should. It hasn't really grasped the power of the web and technology and social media to drive real change in the programs. So there has to be a better way to raise money for charitable causes. So that's what we're here for. We intend to make charities and not-for-profits much more efficient by fundamentally changing the fundraising game. And that's by giving every person that right to earn money for charity while they surf the web. We also intend to grow what we call the giving wallet substantially by driving hundreds of millions of dollars in corporate marketing spend into charities. And our byproduct of that will be this large social citizens network. This is a really good example that I use to show what I'm talking about. How many of you are members of causes on Facebook or subscribe to a cause? Well, this is the largest cancer cause community online. There's over 5 million members. And if you look at the figure, only $128,000 has been donated to date over the past 3 years. So if you do the math, that's pennies per person. So if you think about this and you look at causes and what they're raising, on the left-hand side of the screen, you kind of see a little circle, which is a reference to how much was raised last year through causes, $7 million. And then on the right-hand side, you have this, what we call cause marketing spend, or spend by corporations to tell citizens about the good things that they're doing related to their sustainability and corporate social responsibility initiatives. So they're spending this money and telling these stories, things like their environmental stewardship initiatives or their philanthropic initiatives, but they have no real effective way to target the people that are really receptive to those stories. And if you think about it, the targets of those CSR messages are probably the same people that live in these cause communities. So why not try and redeploy some of that spend for good? And as a byproduct, when you build a black box or a technology solution that connects them, then you can match the two of them and then drive some of that funding into supporting the very causes that those people care about. So that's what we do. We take a percentage of the transaction fee that we power with our platform. And the net result is that we take those marketing dollars and we push it into these charity programs and drive a 300% or 300 times increase in donations. So if you think about what we're trying to do, we're really trying to bring three parties together: citizens that care, communities and companies. And the common thread between them is that they share a passion for a cause and have similar values. Our technology platform is the exchange for this. So we give people tools that allow them to raise money at no cost to them. We give communities and their social programs new sources of funds, and we give companies the ability to strategically target messages to consumers based on values and simultaneously support the very social programs that they're so passionate about. This is just a view of our homepage if you haven't been there, but this is how the platform manifests itself. One of the most interesting tools that we're bringing to market is what we call the cause sidebar, which is on the right. It's an application that sits within your browser and allows you to sponsor a specific program and raise money for it while you surf the web. And here's a short video that will just give you a little more of an overview into it.
I want to stop climate change.
I want to end AIDS.
I want to protect endangered species.
Their families.
I want to help women
Oops. And maybe we won't.
have access to education.
I have one of these thin MacBook Airs. If you're thinking about getting one of them, they're not great on processing power, unfortunately. So I'll move into just a little discussion about social innovation. We had an interesting discussion in the office the other day about what it really is. And for me, social innovation is really about the process of developing new ideas, products, or services that are designed to address and resolve social issues. This is really up to all of us. So if you're not a boomer, then you probably have a different perspective on the world, or you see it in a different way. You're lucky because you have what I call different values than what my parents would have. But you're also cursed because you question the way things were and are. It seems that many people today are more complex than they used to be. We're not just happy with the American dream. We want more. The biggest gift I think all of us, if you're really passionate about this space, can give is your brain. Using it to drive the next 100 years of innovation, and social innovation or innovation for good. So if you want to do this, if you want to innovate for good, then you're probably a social entrepreneur. And I see social innovation everywhere. I've seen it in green and sustainable products, products from companies like Tom's Shoes, where for every pair of shoes that's purchased, one gets donated to a child in need. I see it in services for giving youth at-risk jobs, the kind that change your oil at Active Green and Ross, to green couriers. I see it in the desalination technologies that companies like GE are investing in and intend to give to the world so that millions of people can have fresh and clean drinking water. I also see it in charities like Kiva that drive microfinance loans to help launch female entrepreneurs in third world countries. And schools like Stanford and institutions like Mars are preaching and teaching all about social enterprises. Governments are starting to step up and recognize it. And in the US and UK, they have a new class of companies that are pure social enterprises. And now people are starting to ask when they invest their money if whether or not it has a positive impact and aligns with their values. In short, it's all around us. And the trend toward a more socially responsible populace, I don't think is one that's going to go away, but only strengthen with time and the reinforcement of these values. So I want to show you a short video which hopefully will work about a company built on social innovation. They built their entire business on a model of giving. So let's take a look. Cross your fingers.
idea was to start a shoe company basically where he gave away shoes for every pair that was sold. People laughed and said that was ridiculous. It's more about putting other people ahead of you.
Her oldest daughter is 26 and her youngest baby is 2 years old. She has on occasion bought shoes, but for the most they didn't have. Not for all of them.
When you have tonsillitis, every time you see a child, you want to give them a pair of shoes.
People want to be a part of something that is good.
This is what the shoe drop is all about.
They maybe have never been with shoes in their feet.
He had one pair of new shoes in his life, and it's his second new pair of shoes. This is the greatest thing ever.
Look what's happened in the last 6 months. We just gave away 8,000 pairs of shoes. For anybody who's starting a small company, everybody who has an idea, incorporate giving in what you do.
So when I look back, I think about what's driving this wave of social innovation, and the answer is really many things. We have these new triple helix models, like the one here at Mars, where academia, government, and companies are coming together and working together to support and drive social enterprise. We have the largest shift in values our population has ever seen. And that's both with the advent of Generation G and the economic crisis. These are social citizens that are empowered by their values, and those values drive them to lead social change. And then we have corporations making massive investments in social responsibility. They're weaving social impact into their fabric and finally responding to what I call their social contract. And they all need to tell their stories, which has led to a boom in corporate cause marketing, double-digit growth and over $2.5 billion spent annually. And they're also starting to make more sustainable products and investing in technologies for social good. Technologies like social cell phone-based applications that allow people in developing nations to help find vendors that will pay the highest price for their good so that they can make more money and ultimately lift them out of poverty. And the advent of social media has allowed everyone to connect like never before, become more aware, and act. And this has led to a boom in fundraising innovation. And I think Kiva and its one-to-one loan model is a great example of this, connecting people directly with the impact of their dollar. So having been in this space for the last 18 months, I've learned a ton, and I can make observations that are generally drawn from what I have seen. I still see a problem with scale within the social enterprise model. People aren't really thinking about the Barack Obama model for solving social enterprise or social issues, and I'm talking about the Obama campaign model. And there are over 180,000 not-for-profits in Canada alone, but between them there's still very little collaboration and sharing of best practices. Our country's also been a bit slow to formalize a structure for social purpose businesses. And this is really important because it attracts the capital that's needed to support innovation in the sector. I also believe many people like me could do a better job about telling our stories. We need to share our inspiration and what we've accomplished in order to inspire other people to come into the sector and drive a movement. And we have to think about how a solution to a problem that we're resolving here can be applied overseas and in other markets. I was at a conference called In Good Company last month, and a presenter posed this question: is the world a better place because of your product or service? And if you can't answer this question, then he said, you need to go back and reframe your business. Another interesting entrepreneur, Steve Newcomb, who's hit it a couple times and is now running a company called Virgins, recently said that we've done everything wrong for the past 100 years because everything we did was unsustainable. It's our job now to fix all this and do it right. And I started really thinking about that. You know, that's the torch that we've been passed. So why did I do this? Why did I become a social entrepreneur? Well, my moment came in 2000 when my grandfather passed away. He was a very active community man, and he gave a lot back. A lot of people attended his funeral and told me stories about his dedication and generosity. He had tremendous impact on his community and the world and the people around him. And I wanted that too. I also wanted to be known as a guy that could help solve a major social problem. And when my life is over, I want people to look back and say, that guy really was different. And he helped change the world for the better. And lastly, this is a really new space. It's challenging and it has tons of opportunities. So I'm inherently drawn to it. So what have we learned? We have a top 10 list for you that I've built with a few of my associates. These are really personal observations from the perspective of a for-profit social enterprise, and they may differ tremendously from one market or one company to another. So let's get started and talk first about capital. What I would tell you as an entrepreneur is plan to get none. Build your business based on bootstrapping and sell your way to self-sufficiency. Be sure that you're investing what little capital you do get in building value for your firm. And build value with time by achieving very specific milestones that increase your value. If you absolutely need capital, then try to be what we call a big fish in a small pond. We had an interesting discussion with an entrepreneur out west, and he was based in San Francisco. And he said to us, I'm envious of you guys being in Toronto because there's so many entrepreneurs in San Francisco and there's not enough capital to go around. And every time I make a presentation, I'm up against hundreds of other people that are looking for that same money. And we've kind of had that experience. We and others like us have found capital in places that we never thought it would be. Fergus, Ontario, and we've had an associate that found it in Sault Ste. Marie. But be wary, because there's almost no capital in Canada for startups. If you do find a good fit for someone that wants to invest in you, be wary of what I call the long no, which is that people need to understand that at a startup stage, they're buying you and your concept. It shouldn't take you months to convince them to invest. And if it does, they're not convinced and they probably don't believe in what you're doing. So go your separate ways. And lastly, we used what government funding was available to help us along the way. And Mars actually has a great guide for you if you need access to those programs. But realize that those programs are complicated to navigate and take a long time and resources to process. Secondly, when we first built our technology, we outsourced it. And lots of people ask us the question, should you do things in-house or outsource? Our outsourcing provider was based in India. And I'll tell you that many people that I've talked to over the last year have the same comments. There's an absence of quality in work that's outsourced. You'll spend months and months cleaning up what your offshore provider built for you. And because they're not sitting next to you, you'll have added issues around both language and proximity. You can't tap someone on the shoulder and say, do this. You can't really see what they're doing day to day. And remember that they're a vendor, not an owner. So philosophically, they're going to be less attached to what you're doing. And they may have other projects. So deadlines and important things to you may not be to them. You'll spend a lot of time managing them. And because you're new, you need agility and change as part of your culture and the way you build things. And to that, to outsource firms, agility and change mean scope slide, which are bad things to them. And ultimately, it may mean more money to you. People ask me how you build a great team. The way we did it was we really took a look at the core needs of the business, and then we pulled people in. We made sure that as many people as possible had operational skills so they could do anything. They could write, make creative things. It's very important to have that doers, people that understand business planning, that are driven by objectives, and that have a good grasp of strategy. The right people on the bus will ultimately determine the route to drive it. But you got to make sure you get the right people on the bus. Your leadership team should have integrity, candor, and accountability, and that extra valuable ingredient, which I call passion. It's going to be, for anyone starting a company, a roller coaster ride, and you need lots and lots of guts. There's massive risk involved in starting a company, so prepare everyone around you for what you're going to be going through. Nobody can replace the founders ever, or will ever have the same vision. Even early employees. You never forget this. It's very important. You're not replaceable as a founder. We worked our entire business from an end destination back, and what you saw with the $1 billion was what we call our big, hairy, audacious goal, or our BHAG. We knew what our destination looked like, and then we worked on creating the path towards it. It's very important to do that because the team needs to have a common direction and understanding of the destination and your path to get there, what we commonly refer to internally as our flight plan. And then you need to foster a culture that really supports the destination. Any social enterprise also must build transparency into the model. Because you're different and you have this social portion of your business, you must be able to prove to people that you're staying true to your social mission. And there are options out there. So B Corporation status is one of them. And there are strict standards and audits that you can follow with B Corp that you adhere to and help you convince people that you're doing the right thing, you're making money and simultaneously doing good. So once that is done, how do you drive to market acceptance of your product? We worked backwards from our customers and users, those who will ultimately pay your bills. We modeled them, and we actually developed what we called personas of who they are, how they lived, and how they think. We have 4 of them. Interestingly enough, 3 of them are female. Their names are Blaine, Mike, Angelina, and Dana. And we build everything around them. Any deviation from them takes us off our path. Once we knew those people that would use and adopt our technologies, we could then approach the organizations that were also interested in these same individuals. And we would do things using proof of concept with these individuals and learn from our clients and partners throughout the process. We would also be agile enough to hone our offering based on feedback. We bought our first customers, so we gave things away for free. And we did it in order to build critical cases that were required for us to sell repeatedly. We also did a lot of testing. We tested, and retested, and then we tweaked. And we had people actually in using our tools and technology, people that actually matched our personas. And we took what they had to say and we built it into our product modification loop. Another great tip is that there's a lot of free help out there, especially now. There's volunteers and advisors that will love what you do because you're a social enterprise. I'd say use them really wisely. We had an associate tell us that her firm had an army of 40 virtual volunteers that were helping her grow her business, which was really interesting for us. Understand first, though, the functional needs of the business, and then go and find the skills and people to meet those. Look in the schools and on boards of firms that are in your space and find out what kinds of individuals participate, and then cover the gamut of what you're actually going to need, especially when you're looking at advisory boards. So who do you need from an operations perspective, from a finance perspective, from an investment perspective, for marketing? And be sure to give them something in return, either for volunteers a reference, for advisors some type of compensation, generally in the form of stock options. Another lesson learned was try not to waste any of your money. Your job is really about cash preservation, and cash is king in any startup. Bad investments to me include things that don't support your core. So lawyers are a really good example of that, and I'm sorry if there's any lawyers here, and accountants. Those are two things I would spend less money on. And you can waste a lot of money on these things. Good investments are those that do support the core. So for us, it's product development, prototyping, salespeople, and marketing. Things that deliver product for sale and ultimately help you sell it in market, thus bringing you revenue. And if you don't get distracted by anything else, then that will give you cash flow for your business and allow you to grow. Spend some money on conferences and events that connect you with your industry peers and potential customers. It's not only good for business to do this, but it will breathe new energy and new wind into your sales, because you'll be with others that are also in your space. Timing. It was interesting for us because we made a commitment to do this in September 2007, and then the entire world fell apart. We didn't choose the timing to do this. We'd already made our arrangements to go, but what we didn't realize was how nascent our industry was. If you generally hear a lot about an industry, chances are it's not mainstream yet. So view everyone in your space, if you're in a nascent industry, competitors included, as those you should work with to help build category awareness. We were talking earlier, Cheryl and I, about trailblazing, being the first to do something. I'll tell you that that's an extra challenge on top of the hard task already of being a startup. But you can use it to your advantage. You can become a talking head, a specialist in your field. You can make people start to believe more in your category. The important thing is to lead and not follow others in your space. You have to think and act differently and separate yourselves from others. This will help you actually get customers and start to generate a lot of interest. So I've spoken at a bunch of events, and it's helped me to develop a great black book of customers. And then finally, being an MBA, I like to talk about management discipline. We did a lot of work on revenue, population, and adoption modeling. This type of exercise should only really be done for what I call a go, no-go decision. Our saying that we use within the company is get things vaguely right, not precisely wrong. We also have strategic initiatives and key success factors that we drive against. But anytime you build these strategies on paper, you're inherently going to have what we call strategic tension, which is, what you can, should, and want to do. We built our entire model on the premises of partnering, which creates inherent dependencies. And if you want to succeed and you have a partner model, you have to be really good at influencing others and ultimately showing them the light with your model. So why is working with you worth the investment of their time and resources? And this has to be done continuously, not just once. You also need to figure out what the risks are to your business and success, and then hedge against them. So make your model flexible enough where you can grab opportunities and navigate past the roadblocks that you'll be running up against. And the truth, looking back, is that nothing is going to unfold the way that you plan it. You'll be constrained by time, money, and people, and you'll be forced to make decisions that are short-term in nature and generally not in the long-term interest of your firm. You just are going to have to live with those types of decisions. And be sure that they're not the kind that will jeopardize your firm. A lot of people ask me this question already, and we're not even at the end, but if you had to do it all over again, what would be some of the things you would do differently? And I'll just tell you, I really love my country, but sometimes I believe that as Canadians, we really don't support or make bets on really innovative enterprises. Last year, only $50 million in capital was put into all companies across Canada at the seed and startup stage. And this isn't going to cut innovation at all in our country. We need a really grand vision, almost a vision that defines who we want to be when we grow up. And ultimately, we need to place some bets. I personally believe that Canada can lead social innovation. It's also been a little bit awkward for us on some levels because we're not a for-profit enterprise entirely, and we're not a not-for-profit. So venture capitalists push us off or want the social element of our business removed from it. And social investors want us to be pure not-for-profits. And we've also had pretty big challenges telling our story to everyone because it's inherently complex. Next time I'd watch more Sesame Street first to try and figure out how they tell stories and try and dumb ours down to that level. We've also probably lost some of our initial investment opportunities because we didn't have our story to the point where it was 80 to 90% polished. I would also get a few clients initially to build a services practice, to get some gigs that could sustain your company, and then build off that bootstrapping. With revenue, inherently brings life, confidence, and then more capital. I would raise more money early and plan not to do it again for 18 to 24 months. Once you get into a cycle of raising money, you'll find that it's extremely time-consuming and draining. And it also takes you away from what your core purpose is, which is really to build and focus on your business. And of the money that we did raise, I would probably put more of it into the core. And those are kind of my reflections. I tell people a lot that are jumping in to be entrepreneurs that their life is just going to be peaks and valleys and nothing in between. You're not going to be a corporate box checker or what I call a flatliner. You only have the best of days and the worst of days, but nothing in between. But I'll guarantee you that your best days will outnumber your bad days, and it'll all make it worthwhile for you. So if you do all this, if you decide to become an entrepreneur, especially a social entrepreneur, you'll be different. You're going to be powered by passion and driven by purpose. You're going to have built into your business a responsibility to help one another. This is what I think is the new way. Remember about what I said earlier about fixing everything that's done wrong, and that's the torch that we've been passed. What I will say about coming from a corporation to being a social entrepreneur is that I really love the new me, and you'll love the new you. And there will be more and more people like you out there. Thanks for joining me today. Best of luck on your journey. I'm now going to ask one of my partners to come up and join me for some questions and answers. So Mark Bachman. So if you could raise your hand for us, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
No questions?
No, I'll comment. Doesn't mind.
Oh, okay, great.
Thanks for your presentation. I guess my question, I have two short ones. One, what corporate structure did you ultimately use? And two, why did you choose the software licensing model that you did? Is it because it's fundamental to how you're planning to fund your business? And I guess why did you avoid sort of an open or free source licensing?
Okay, those are good questions. So the structure we used was we incorporated in Ontario in a standard for-profit model. There was no special enterprise that we could become. Unfortunately, that's not available. It is in the US and the UK. They have a different classification for social enterprises, but we haven't got there yet in Canada. The question about the licensing model is that we believe, based on our business model, that our partners need to have a vested interest in making the platform successful, and also have an interest in promoting it to their membership base. Because our business is ultimately about getting eyeballs. So we believed if we gave it away free to organizations, that they would not have the incentive to invest the time or effort into marketing it to their members.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What are some of the marketing tools that you use to promote specifically to other businesses as opposed to consumers?
For businesses? Really, the major initiatives thus far have been to participate in speaking at conferences where all of those businesses would be. So for us, there was, we were presenting at the Cause Marketing Forum, which had a group of corporations which were investing in sustainability and social responsibility initiatives, at Sustainable Brands. We were also members of Business for Social Responsibility, and we participated in Canadian Business for Social Responsibility. Those were the key places that we went. And then by talking on these circuits and by getting introduced to people through presentations on the space, you'll find that your network just starts to expand from those individuals.
Hi there.
Hi.
Some people would say that the sort of gray zone that exists between, for social enterprises, between like for-profit, non-profit, and this B corporation system, is actually to our advantage at this point. Can you talk to us maybe in a broader sense about the sorts of decision-making processes that you went through when you were deciding whether to be for-profit or non-profit?
Yeah, it was for me, and I think for the team, it was ultimately that based on our model, we knew that we had to invest some significant capital into the firm. We wanted to also lead this field and prove to not only individuals but other organizations that you can do good and make money simultaneously. So we believed at the time that we decided to go, that the fastest way for us to get to market was as a for-profit social enterprise. So for not-for-profits, it takes a bit longer. And we believe that if our core mission was to continually invest in bringing innovation to our partners, then a for-profit model was a better way of doing that. We could attract talent and pay them more effectively and use returns to continually fund our model.
Sorry, just to follow up then. So, okay, you were talking about how in Canada, there isn't a lot of capital investment going on, and not enough to certainly support all the entrepreneurs that have startups going now. But there's funding at the nonprofit level, right? So there's kind of this trade-off, right? There's risk. Maybe you can do things faster if you have investors, like individual investors, but maybe there's some more guarantees between like government funding or foundations or what have you. Can you speak to that? Maybe in sort of a broader sense?
Yeah, John, one of the things that we're going to need to do with because we were building a technology platform when we looked at this, we actually tossed up the idea of doing this as a not-for-profit as well. But we actually needed to attract a lot of investment within an IT platform. And we actually thought that the capital markets and access to capital was going to be easier to be able to go and do that with, to be able to go and attract investment capital. The other piece to this is we actually believe that kind of our for-profit motive and the for-purpose motive, not only are they complementary, but they actually add value. We actually couldn't do this without both of those components in place. So it's actually kind of unique in that sense.
But you were speaking more about going after foundation money or...
Yeah, I mean, you're technology specific. So if you're thinking outside of, say, the technology sphere.
Yeah, it's really ultimately, you have to look at what type of business that you're starting up and then the opportunities for you to make it successful, really.
You talked about the difficulty in raising funds, especially because you're between the not-for-profit and the for-profit traditional VC round of funding. Can you speak to where you ended up raising your cash? Was it locally or geographically dispersed down to other parts of the world?
Well, we initially funded the company with money from the leadership team. And then we did a second round from who we call friends and family and some angel investors. And the way that we did that is we connected with a retail broker who had a group of clients that were high net worth individuals in a specific area. And he brought us to them. And we kind of did the Dragon's Den thing where we presented to a group of them all at once. And we've done the Dragon's Den thing, by the way. We've been down to conferences in New York and out west where we've been on stage like this presenting, and there's been a group of venture guys sitting there. The big challenge was that there is not enough capital in most of the venture funds today. And when you approach angels, if you think about angels that have investments in market, until recently, you were asking them to pull money out of market at a massive loss and then put it into an equity investment with massive risk, which was a pretty hard sell.
So in terms of location, you found there was appetite geographically around to take up whatever you were offering at the time?
Yeah, and the places that we found capital, and I know that other people have found capital, are in markets that are not generally as populated as a metropolitan center like Toronto. It's industries that live outside of the big metro areas where there's wealthy individuals that have, one of the associates we had went to a mining group in the Sault Ste. Marie area and approached them. We've also heard about junior oil and gas companies and people going out to areas in Alberta where there's individuals there that are wealthy, that have capital. So it's kind of looking for those pockets of individuals that have become really successful around an industry and then presenting to them.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
What is your transaction fee? How do you calculate your licensing fee, and who have you been able to sell the product to?
The license fee itself, so we built a pricing structure just based on a number of things, really a cost model, but we also looked at variables like what our competitors were offering as well. On the transaction side of it, so we operate in percentages on I'm not going to get into big detail on this, but based on one of our major revenue drivers is impressions per thousands, or CPMs. So we basically build our model off of the cost of distributing those ads to the individuals, and then we take what most people would call gross profit or net revenue, and we drive a percentage of that into our charity partners, so anywhere from 80 to 90%.
And who have you been able to partner up with or sell the platform to?
Our first customer is going live in the next couple of weeks, and that's Pearson Foundation. Pearson Publishing is a $10 billion media and publishing company, and they're using our platform to power an initiative that's called We Give Books, which is a program that they're rolling out to students to incent them to read books online, and through that they get points, and the points actually earn books for children in need of books.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, one other thing just on that point. So I mentioned earlier that we bought our first few customers. So if you go to our site, we actually have over 25 charity partners that we made part of our pilot initiative, and that are currently on the platform. In the next, I would say 12 months, our plan is to move them over to what we call a private label service, where they'll also be paying us in a software as a service model.
Just to sort of further build on that and clarify a bit, the bettertheworld.com is really sort of a test consumer marketplace, and that application is specifically a charity fundraising application. The technology that powers that site and that marketplace is really sort of the core technology that we can actually take out, and there's a lot of other applications for that. Within corporate foundations, we can actually go and integrate tools into any other type of online community that has a large membership base and a need for fundraising. So it could be professional associations, alumni organizations, schools, that kind of thing. So there's some flexibility in the different sort of pricing structures between licensing and revenue share depending on the application. But on our site right now, there's the charities that are on there. There's no fee for those charities to be on there. They actually help us build the platform and build the service. And it's a 90-10 revenue split within Better the World. So 90% of all the ad dollars that actually come through go back and fund the causes that people care about.
So the other interesting thing about it is that my background before was with Microsoft, and I can tell you that any software vendor, don't be too concerned about your pricing structure when you begin, because you'll have the opportunity to adjust it depending on the market with time.
I just wanted to know a little bit more about when you were approaching investors and the kind of like what was clicking with them. Was it your real social goals, or was it the returns on investment you were offering?
Oh, this is the funny thing. It really depends on the investor. You know, whether there's someone that's a member of a board of a charity and they're really passionate about social change, or whether they're someone that's passionate about technology, or whether there's someone that's just passionate about making money. You know, the thing about being an entrepreneur and approaching these individuals is you have to read really quickly when you go into a meeting with them which one they are, and kind of adjust your pitch to that. You know, some weeks were an ad network, and then some weeks were the greatest software firm in the world. So it really depends on who you're approaching. But you're going to need to have more than one take on what you're doing.
So you'll just kind of start off and read what kind of response you get from there. And
yeah, it's more that we do our research beforehand to know the audience that we're presenting to. But when you go into a meeting, you're typically going to have people that understand your concept and what you're trying to do really quickly, or you're not. And if it takes you, you can generally see on their faces when they really don't understand the opportunity. And that's kind of when you have to go back and try explaining it different ways.
Thanks.
Hi. How long do you and the other founding partners see yourself working for Better the World? Do you think you're going to exit the company in a couple of years, assuming it's successful and keeps going, or is it something you're going to work for the rest of your life?
It's an interesting question. You know, the destination for us, ultimately, we'd like to see our vision actually achieved, and we'd like to reach some of the goals that we've set for ourselves. So we had that question from a venture guy that asked us, if someone gave you $10 million today, what would you do? And you kind of sit there because you really don't know what the right answer is. But we said we'd probably take the money as long as we would be able to still be a part of it and make sure that it continued on and lived a good life and drove the change that we wanted to drive. So in 20 years, do I see myself doing stuff with Better the World? Probably not. My dream is to have many different companies that drive social change, and I think this is just the first one. There's probably people that are out there that are better at actually managing a company once it gets up and running, and my interest really lies in building.
Sort of another part to that is sort of one of the core principles of what we're trying to do is to bring innovation within the sort of the fundraising landscape. We're looking at sort of all the different ways that money is flowing through the internet and see if we can capture those to deliver it for social good. If we can continue to be in an environment where it's innovative and entrepreneurial, and you still get to wake up every day and go solve problems and tackle challenges, that'd be fantastic. If it moves into a kind of a maintenance steady state mode, then I think the entrepreneurial nature of the founding team would be to move that into a manager and then go off and do something new.
I'm curious to know, in the early part of your process when you were noodling with business models, if you ever considered adopting a collaborative business model where, for instance, you would get together this handful of charities, not merely as guinea pigs, but as people who could put resources towards your project. And then grow from there, and they may take residual income thereafter, or maybe once certain goals are reached, you could sever the relationship. Did you? And it seems you had rejected it, so why?
Actually, no, we did consider it quite a bit. The other founding partner that was part of the MBA program with us as well, she actually spent her entire career in the not-for-profit sector. So, and she was the executive director of a charity here in Toronto. And then while we were doing research, she was really almost, sort of playing that the charity client perspective. And so she was able to give a lot of insight into what we're trying to do. One of the challenges that we had early on when we were looking for those sort of lead partners to come and help us do this, they didn't understand what we were doing. Try explaining Twitter 2 years ago. It just conceptually, actually tactically, they had a difficulty understanding what we were trying to do. Conceptually, they were all trying to figure out. They knew that there was this fantastic channel in the web. Having a website up with a donate button wasn't going to cut it. But so strategically, they were interested, but they didn't have the actually more the people resources to be able to go and dedicate to that, because it was still a little bit too far off. They didn't understand what we were trying to do. So, and that's, we actually tried to get them to help co-build this with us and co-invest with us. Our early vision for this was to have 15 charity partners, and that's it. And totally focused all our energies within those 15 partners. It just, it wasn't gonna work out in scale, but great question.
Well, thanks everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening.